They were meant to make us laugh. But why do so many people feel uneasy at the sight of a clown? Behind the bright colors and exaggerated smiles hides something that has fascinated psychologists, historians, and even theologians for centuries. This fear, known as coulrophobia, isn't just about makeup or costumes. It touches something deeper in the human mind, a mix of the familiar and the unnatural. From ancient rituals where masks symbolize spirits and transformation, to the modern circus where laughter meant discomfort, the clown has always been more than entertainment. In this video, we'll explore the true origins of our fear of clowns, through psychology, history, symbolism, and faith, to understand why a painted smile can awaken something ancient inside us all. Before we uncover the hidden truth behind our fear of clowns and the mystery of the painted smile, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. By joining our community, you'll stay connected to our ongoing explorations of fear, faith, and the unexplained stories that shape the human mind. Don't miss what lies beneath the surface. Hit that bell and discover the truths that many prefer to keep hidden. For most people, a smile is supposed to represent warmth, safety, and joy. It's one of the first human expressions we learn to recognize, a universal sign of connection. Yet, when that smile is painted on, frozen in place, and exaggerated beyond what feels natural, something inside us begins to recoil. The laughter turns hollow, the cheerfulness feels forced, and our brains send a quiet signal. Something isn't right. Psychologists have long tried to explain this strange reaction to clowns, a phenomenon known as coulrophobia, the fear or discomfort many people feel when faced with clowns' painted face. At first glance, it seems irrational. After all, clowns are meant to entertain children, to bring happiness and light-hearted chaos. But human emotion is not so simple. Behind our laughter hides a deep psychological mechanism that instantly detects when joy doesn't feel authentic. The clown smile, stretched too wide and too perfect, crosses a thin line between playfulness and deceit. This discomfort begins with what scientists call the uncanny valley. It's the unsettling feeling we experience when something looks almost human, but not quite. Our brains evolved to recognize human faces with extreme precision. Every twitch, every subtle shift in expression communicates emotion and intention. But when those expressions are exaggerated, frozen, or distorted, our natural instincts begin to question what we're seeing. A clown's face, covered in white paint, with oversized red lips and fixed eyebrows, creates exactly that kind of confusion. It's a human face trying too hard to look human, and in that effort, it becomes something else entirely. At a biological level, this reaction is about survival. Our ancestors depended on facial cues to detect danger or deceit. When someone smiled while hiding a weapon or a bad intention, those who could detect that mismatch had a better chance of surviving. Over thousands of years, the human mind became an expert at recognizing when emotion doesn't match behavior. A clown's unchanging grin triggers that same ancient alarm. It tells us subconsciously that what we're seeing might not be safe. There's also the issue of ambiguity. Clowns are unpredictable by design. They appear playful one moment and chaotic the next. They break social norms, violate personal space, and behave in ways that ignore the usual rules of human interaction. That unpredictability is entertaining when controlled, in a circus on stage or on television, but in person, it becomes unsettling. We don't know what they'll do next. Our minds crave patterns and stability, and when those patterns break, fear quietly takes over. Children, especially, are sensitive to this. Studies have shown that many young children react to clowns with anxiety rather than joy. Their developing brains rely heavily on facial recognition to interpret emotion. When the face before them is covered, distorted, and exaggerated, it creates confusion and mistrust. They cannot read the true emotion beneath the makeup, and that uncertainty feels threatening. What's hidden behind the smile? What's real and what's fake? This reaction is not limited to clowns alone. Similar feelings arise when we see humanoid robots, wax figures, or masks that obscure emotion. All of them fall within the same psychological space, the uncanny valley, where familiarity meets distortion. The closer something gets to looking human, without being fully natural, the more our minds push back against it. The clown becomes a living paradox. Familiar enough to recognize, yet strange enough to unsettle. But there's more to this fear than biology. Emotionally, clowns represent contradiction. They embody both joy and sadness, laughter and pain. The bright colors, the laughter, and the tricks are all designed to distract us from a melancholy that often hides underneath. Many clowns in theater and history have been portrayed as tragic figures, smiling through their suffering, masking their true emotions to entertain others. At some deep psychological level, this strikes a chord. We sense the hidden sorrow behind the performance, and it reminds us of our own attempts to disguise pain behind laughter. This mix of humor and discomfort makes clowns powerful symbols in human psychology. They mirror our complexity, the way we balance happiness and fear, truth and deception. And because of that, they provoke reflection. We don't just fear the clown itself. We fear what it represents, the fragile boundary between joy and darkness within our own emotions. Interestingly, psychologists link this reaction to empathy. Human beings are naturally empathetic creatures. We subconsciously imitate the emotions we see in others. When someone smiles sincerely, we tend to smile back. But when the expression is artificial or exaggerated, our mirror neurons hesitate. The feedback loop of empathy breaks, leaving us emotionally disconnected. We're left staring at a face that feels human, but doesn't respond like one. The result is unease. The makeup itself also plays a role. The pure white face, the exaggerated mouth, and the red nose distort normal proportions in ways that draw attention to the wrong features. Our brains expect symmetry and natural skin tones. When those are missing, we interpret the face as a mask, something designed to hide, not reveal. Even if we consciously know it's just makeup, our subconscious doesn't care. It sees the mask as deception and it reacts accordingly. There's also a cultural factor. In the last century, popular media began to reinterpret clowns through darker lenses. Even though this part belongs more to the next sections of our story, it's worth mentioning that our collective imagination has gradually shifted. The cheerful clown of the early circus evolved into something more complex, more ambiguous, and occasionally more sinister in art and entertainment. This slow cultural transformation strengthened our psychological association between the clown's exaggerated smile and hidden danger. Still, it would be unfair to reduce this reaction to simple fear. The psychology of clowns also involves fascination. Fear and fascination often coexist. Both are responses to mystery. We're drawn to what we don't fully understand, even if it makes us uncomfortable. The clown's strange mix of human and inhuman qualities captures our attention because it challenges our instincts. It forces us to confront our own emotional boundaries, to question what's real and what's performance. In many ways, the clown is a mirror of the human condition. We all wear masks in social life, expressions we put on to please others, to hide our pain, or to protect ourselves. The clown exaggerates that behavior until it becomes almost grotesque, reflecting something true about humanity that we'd rather not see. Perhaps that's why clowns disturb us so deeply. They expose the artifice of emotion itself. They remind us that happiness can be performed, that joy can be faked, and that not every smile means safety. Modern research into coulrophobia suggests that fear of clowns is not always a phobia in the clinical sense. Often, it's a combination of learned associations, early negative experiences, and natural human sensitivity to visual and emotional distortion. Some people may feel mild discomfort, while others experience genuine panic. In both cases, the root cause lies in uncertainty, an instinctive mistrust of what cannot be emotionally read. The key to understanding this fear lies in realizing that it's not about hating clowns, but about what they trigger inside us. The brain reacts to them as it does to anything ambiguous or contradictory. The cheerful face, hiding an unknown intention, challenges our sense of control. It reminds us that appearances can deceive, and that even in moments of joy, darkness can hide in plain sight. From a psychological perspective, this duality, laughter and fear existing side by side, is what makes clowns such a fascinating subject. They occupy a unique place in our collective psyche, standing at the intersection between innocence and danger, comedy and tragedy. They are both familiar and foreign, inviting and unsettling. And that tension is what keeps the human mind so deeply intrigued. As we move forward in this exploration, we'll see that our fear of clowns is not an accident of modern culture. It has roots that stretch back to the earliest forms of human expression, masks, rituals, and symbols that try to bridge the gap between what is seen and what is hidden. But before diving into that history, it's important to remember one simple truth. The fear we feel when looking at a painted smile is, in many ways, a reflection of our own psychology. It's not just about the clown. It's about us, our instinct to question, our need to trust, and our eternal struggle to understand the faces we see around us. Long before the circus, long before comedy and painted smiles, the idea of hiding one's face had a sacred purpose. Across civilizations, the mask was never just decoration. It was a bridge between the human and the divine, between what is seen and what remains unseen. To wear a mask was to step beyond the limits of the ordinary self and into something larger, older, and more mysterious. In many ancient societies, masks were used in ceremonies to embody spirits, gods, or moral lessons. They were not meant to amuse, but to transform. When a person put on a mask, they were no longer themselves. They became a vessel through which something else could speak. The transformation was both physical and spiritual, an act of crossing boundaries that humans were not normally allowed to cross. Archaeologists have found evidence of this in almost every corner of the world. In Africa, tribal masks were used to communicate with ancestors or nature spirits. Each mask carried a specific energy: fertility, harvest, wisdom, protection. And the dancer who wore it entered a trance-like state, believed to channel the power of that spirit. The audience did not see the person beneath the mask. They saw the divine being it represented. To look directly at it was often considered dangerous, even forbidden, because the mask was thought contained real presence. In ancient Egypt, masks had a different but equally powerful meaning. The funerary masks of pharaohs, like the famous mask of Tutankhamun, were created to preserve identity beyond death. They symbolize a soul's transformation from mortal to eternal. The painted eyes, lips, and gold surface were not just art. They were tools for transcendence. In Egyptian belief, the mask allowed the spirit to recognize its own body in the afterlife and continue its journey. Even in death, the face was protected, hidden, yet revealed through sacred art. Farther east in Japan, the art of the No theater carried similar spiritual weight. Each No mask was meticulously crafted to express both emotion and emptiness. With the slightest change of lighting or angle, the same mask could appear joyful, sorrowful, or menacing. It symbolized the fluidity of the human soul, that emotion is never fixed, that our faces hide layers of meaning. Audiences were not just watching an actor perform. They were witnessing a transformation, a glimpse into the unseen world of spirit and emotion. In Greece, the birthplace of Western theater, masks also played a central role. The word persona itself, from which we get person, originally meant mask. Greek actors wore exaggerated expressions to project emotion to the entire amphitheater. But beneath that art was a deeper philosophy, that every human plays roles in life. The mask became a metaphor for identity itself, for the way we switch between versions of ourselves depending on who is watching. The comedy and tragedy masks that survive today are remnants of that truth. Joy and sorrow, forever intertwined. These ancient traditions reveal something profound about human nature. Across time and culture, we have always used masks to explore identity, morality, and spirituality. To wear one was not deception, it was revelation. It allowed people to express what could not be spoken, to connect with forces beyond comprehension. But it also carried danger. The mask's power came from its ability to blur the line between the real and the unreal, the human and the divine. And whenever that line blurs, fear is never far behind. This is where the psychological roots of the modern clown begin to emerge. Not in circuses or theaters, but in these ancient rituals of transformation. When we look at a clown's face, painted white with exaggerated features, we are witnessing a modern echo of the ritual mask. We feel its presence not because we understand it intellectually, but because something in our collective memory still recognizes it. Deep inside, we remember what it means to see a human face concealed behind symbols. In some cultures, masks were used not to represent gods, but to ward off evil. In medieval Europe, festivals like the Feast of Fools allowed people to wear grotesque faces to confuse spirits believed to roam the earth during the darkest nights of winter. The logic was simple. If evil could not recognize you, it could not harm you. Ironically, those masks often became sources of fear themselves, reminders that hiding one's identity, even for protection, always carries a shadow of danger. In Native American traditions, masks also had a dual nature. Some were made for healing ceremonies, while others represented trickster spirits. Figures who used humor, chaos, and contradiction to teach moral lessons. These tricksters were unpredictable, powerful, and deeply symbolic. They brought laughter, but also unease. Their purpose was to reveal truths hidden beneath comfort, to show that not all smiles are innocent and not all jokes are harmless. Sound familiar? In many ways, these spiritual tricksters are the ancestors of the modern clown. The trickster archetype exists in nearly every culture. In Norse mythology, there was Loki, the shapeshifter who caused both trouble and transformation. In West African tales, Eshu played the same role, a divine messenger who thrived in contradiction. In Native American stories, Coyote was a fool and a teacher, the one who exposed human weakness through absurdity. And in each of these stories, masks or disguises often appeared as tools of revelation, ways to show truth through deceit, wisdom through chaos. That paradox, laughter mixed with unease, is at the core of what the clown represents today. When a clown performs, it taps into an ancient current of meaning that humans have felt for millennia. The bright colors and exaggerated gestures are modern symbols of the same ancient idea. The power to shift identity, to reveal emotion by hiding behind a mask. The audience may not know it consciously, but deep down, they respond to that energy. The clown doesn't just entertain. It transforms space, breaks rules, and suspends reality, just as ritual masks once did in temples and fireside ceremonies. There's a psychological dimension to this as well. The act of hiding one's face while expressing exaggerated emotion creates a kind of cognitive dissonance in the viewer. We know the person behind the mask is real, yet we cannot access their true self. This tension between concealment and revelation has always fascinated humanity. It reflects our inner struggle, the desire to be seen, yet the fear of being truly known. Religion also played a crucial role in shaping how we perceive mask figures. In many ancient faiths, the sacred and profane were separated by the veil of the unknown. Priests, shamans, and prophets often wore special garments or face coverings to signify that they were speaking on behalf of something greater than themselves. To see the divine directly was considered too powerful, too overwhelming for the human mind. So the mask became both protection and connection, a sacred symbol of mediation between worlds. Over time, as societies evolved and rituals turned into entertainment, the meaning of the mask began to shift. What was once sacred became theatrical. The transformation that once connected humans to the divine now connected performers to audiences. Yet, the emotional residue of those ancient beliefs remained. Even when we watch a modern clown, our subconscious remembers the old language of masks, a language of power, mystery, and transformation. This might explain why clowns provoke such deep, instinctive reactions. They don't just make us laugh or scare us. They awaken something ancient in our psyche, something that recognizes a masked face as both sacred and dangerous. The clown's painted smile, like the ceremonial mask, hides as much as it reveals. It invites us to look closer, to question what lies beneath. And that questioning, that mix of fascination and unease, is the inheritance of countless generations who once gathered around firelight, watching masked dancers summon the unseen. Today, few people consciously connect clowns to ancient spirituality, but the echoes are there in the makeup, in the exaggerated gestures, in the emotional paradox. The clown's role as a mirror of humanity, as a being that exposes truth through disguise, is not a modern invention. It's a continuation of an ancient tradition, one that began not in laughter, but in reverence. As we leave the world of ritual and step into the birth of performance, the mask will evolve once again. It will move from temples to royal courts, from spiritual ceremony to social satire. Yet the essence will remain. The mask will still hide and reveal, still entertain and disturb, still remind us that the line between human and symbol is thinner than we like to believe. As humanity moved away from temples and sacred rituals, a new stage emerged, the royal court. Here, under chandeliers and banners, the mask found a different purpose. No longer a tool for calling spirits. It became a weapon of wit, a mirror held up to power, and at the center of that mirror stood a peculiar figure, the fool. The fool was unlike anyone else in medieval society. While kings and nobles ruled by order and decorum, the fool was allowed to do what no one else could, to mock, to question, to speak truth wrapped in laughter. His bright costume, mismatched colors, and jingling bells were his armor. Beneath the playfulness lay a profound role. The fool was both entertainer and philosopher, both chaos and wisdom. In the rigid world of hierarchy, the fool's presence was a paradox. He had no rank, no land, no lineage, yet he stood beside kings, free to criticize, to joke, even to challenge authority. His laughter disarmed anger, his absurdity hid insight. What priests did in temples, the fool now did in palaces. He revealed uncomfortable truths, not through ritual, but through humor. The jester's makeup, his exaggerated grin, and his unpredictable behavior were more than mere performance. They were symbols of freedom through madness. Society saw him as harmless, even ridiculous, but that was precisely his strength. He could say what others could not. In his foolishness lay immunity, a divine right of humor. Historians trace this tradition back to early European courts, where jesters appeared as official members of royal households. Some were trained performers. Others were simply individuals whose eccentricity or wit made them valuable companions to rulers. They entertained, yes, but they also advised. Their jokes often contained sharp observations about politics, morality, and human nature. The fool's costume reflected his complex purpose. The cap with bells, sometimes shaped like donkey ears, symbolized both ridicule and revelation. It mocked ignorance while embracing it, turning foolishness into a mask for wisdom. His laughter was a shield, protecting him from the wrath of those he mocked. And yet, it was also a reminder, beneath laughter, there was always truth. In some European traditions, the fool was not just comic relief. He was spiritual. Medieval Christianity had a curious relationship with humor. The church taught humility and order, but the fool embodied the idea that wisdom often hides in simplicity. Saints and mystics sometimes use holy foolishness, acts of deliberate absurdity, to reveal divine truths that logic could not express. This concept, known as foolishness for Christ's sake, appears in the writings of early mystics and in behavior of wandering ascetics who lived on the edge of sanity and revelation. Thus, the fool was both worldly and sacred, a strange continuation of the ancient masked priest, transformed into a figure of laughter. The mask was no longer literal paint, but symbolic disguise. Beneath his eccentricity, the jester spoke the same language of transformation that shamans once did. Truth through contradiction. The theatrical nature of the fool also influenced early European performance. In medieval pageants and morality plays, the fool character often appeared as the voice of common sense disguised as nonsense. He reminded audiences of their own flaws, greed, pride, hypocrisy. Through humor, people laughed at him, yet recognized themselves in his chaos. That uneasy laughter, the mix of amusement and recognition, is part of what still makes clowns and jesters unsettling today. The Feast of Fools, a festival celebrated in parts of medieval Europe, captured this inversion of order. During this time, church clerics dressed as jesters, authority was mocked, and the world turned upside down for a day. The idea was not rebellion for its own sake, but renewal. By temporarily breaking the rules, society released tension and reminded itself of the balance between control and freedom. The mask once again became a sacred tool, used not to summon gods, but to expose the absurdity of human order. It is fascinating how laughter and fear often share the same roots. Both are responses to the unexpected. Both come from losing control. The fool's laughter was never entirely safe. It carried the possibility of chaos, of truth slipping out from behind the joke. A king could laugh at his jester, but deep down, he knew the laughter might hide criticism, even prophecy. In this way, the fool continued the ancient tradition of the trickster, the one who disrupts patterns to reveal hidden wisdom. Just as the shaman's mask blurred the line between worlds, the jester's humor blurred the line between truth and jest. Every laugh carried a question. What if the fool is right? This duality, wisdom hidden inside absurdity, is a theme that never disappeared. in art, literature, and theater, it evolved into a symbol of humanity's inner contradictions. The fool, like the clown after him, embodied our capacity for both joy and darkness, our need to play while confronting pain. During the Renaissance, this archetype found new life in theater. In the plays of Shakespeare, for example, the fool is often the only character who understands a full picture. In King Lear, the fool speaks truth to the old king when no one else dares. His riddles and jokes are filled with sorrow, irony, and insight. In Twelfth Night, Fest the Clown mocks both the powerful and the foolish, yet his songs reveal deep wisdom. These characters are not side entertainment. They are moral centers, truth-tellers disguised as jesters. From a psychological point of view, the fool represents a universal human need, the need to express truth indirectly. People have always used humor as a safe way to release tension, question authority, and explore taboo subjects. Laughter opens doors that reason keeps closed. The fool's performance was a form of collective therapy, allowing society to see itself honestly, if only for a moment. But like the masks of the ancient world, the fool's disguise carried risk. To hide behind laughter is to risk being misunderstood. Some jesters were beloved. Others were punished for saying too much. The line between humor and offense, between wisdom and madness, was dangerously thin. And that tension, that fragile balance between joy and fear, would later become part of the essence of the modern clown. Over time, the fool's image began to change. The courts faded, the theaters expanded, and performance became accessible to the masses. Yet the symbolic heart of fool, the laughter that reveals truth, survived. It passed from the castle halls to the traveling performers, the street entertainers, and eventually to the colorful tents of the circus. The transformation from fool to clown is not a sudden leap. It is a gradual evolution of meaning. What began as divine revelation in the mask became social commentary in the jester, and finally emotional performance in the clown. The laughter never changed, only its purpose did. The medieval fool taught humanity something essential, that humor is not the opposite of seriousness, but a different path toward understanding. Through laughter, people confronted what they feared most: failure, loss, pride, mortality. The fool stood at the center of that process, using joy to reveal truth. And even now, when we see a painted smile that feels strangely deep or sad, we are responding to that same ancient wisdom. Because beneath every act of comedy lies a question. The same question the fool once asked his king. Are you sure you understand what's really happening? That question would echo through centuries, carried by traveling jesters, actors, and mimes, until it finally took shape in the modern world's most paradoxical performer, the clown. The world of performance began to shift dramatically in the 18th and 19th centuries. As Europe moved beyond the medieval court and public theaters expanded, entertainment became more commercial, more accessible, and more structured. Traveling circuses emerged, bringing together acrobats, magicians, and performers of all kinds. Among them, one figure stood out: the clown, a direct descendant of the medieval fool, yet distinctly modern in appearance and role. The early circus clown did not immediately resemble the exaggerated, painted figure we recognize today. Instead, clowns of the 1700s and early 1800s were often comedic actors who exaggerated their gestures, wore colorful costumes, and performed physical comedy to amuse the audience. They drew heavily from traditions of commedia dell'arte, a form of Italian theater that relied on stock characters, improvisation, and masks. The Harlequin, Pierrot, and Pulcinella figures were all influences, each carrying their own blend of humor and pathos. Joseph Grimaldi, born in London in 1778, is widely regarded as the first modern clown. Grimaldi transformed the role of clowning by combining exaggerated facial makeup, vibrant costumes, and highly expressive physical comedy. He popularized the white face with red cheeks and oversized features, a template that would define the clown's visual identity for generations. Grimaldi's performances were designed to provoke laughter, but they also contained elements of irony, satire, and even social critique. Through the painted mask, he could portray exaggerated joy while subtly acknowledging sorrow or absurdity, echoing the paradoxes first seen in the medieval fool. The circus environment itself played a crucial role in shaping the modern clown. Unlike the court, Where the jester's audience was elite and familiar with the conventions of satire, the circus reached a broad public. Clowns needed to communicate emotion instantly and universally. Their gestures, expressions, and costumes were deliberately amplified to ensure that even those seated far from the ring could understand the story. The painted face became both a tool and a symbol. Exaggeration was necessary, but also created a sense of ambiguity that could unsettle viewers on a subconscious level. By the 19th century, the clown had become a central figure in the circus, often appearing between acts to entertain and maintain the audience's attention. This period also saw the rise of clown archetypes. The Auguste, who was playful and chaotic, the white face, more elegant and authoritative, and the character clown, who represented exaggerated human traits. Each type reflected a different aspect of human behavior, creating a mirror for audiences to recognize their own emotions, fears, and desires. The painted face, exaggerated features, and expressive costume all served a psychological purpose. They allowed the clown to communicate universally, transcending language, culture, and social class. Yet at the same time, these features triggered subtle discomfort in some viewers. The exaggeration of human features, the artificial smile, and the unchanging eyes all created a tension between familiarity and strangeness. This is the same tension identified in psychological studies today, the balance between recognition and the uncanny. Interestingly, the circus clown also inherited the dual nature of the fool. Just as the medieval jester could entertain, while revealing uncomfortable truths, the clown could make audiences laugh while reflecting aspects of human vulnerability and imperfection. Humor became a vehicle for emotional exploration. Physical comedy, pratfalls, and exaggerated gestures highlighted human clumsiness, fear, and folly, allowing audiences to confront these qualities safely through laughter. The rise of clowning coincided with broader societal changes. Industrialization and urbanization created new forms of public entertainment, and the circus became a place where people from different social classes could come together. In this context, clowns were not only performers but also social commentators in subtle ways. Their exaggerated expressions and unpredictable behavior mirrored the instability and contradictions of a rapidly changing world. During this period, visual culture further amplified the clown's presence. Lithographs, postcards, and early photography captured clowns in both performance and portraiture. Children's books, prints, and early comic strips frequently featured clowns, embedding their image into popular imagination. These images reinforced both delight and unease. The clown was approachable, entertaining, but somehow strange. The painted face, once a theatrical tool, now carried symbolic weight beyond the circus tent. By the early 20th century, clowns had become deeply embedded in popular culture. They appeared in vaudeville shows, theater productions, and eventually in film. Silent movies, in particular, highlighted the clown's expressive potential, allowing gestures and exaggerated expressions to communicate emotion without words. Icons like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton borrowed elements of clowning: the physical comedy, the tragic undertones, the visual exaggeration, bringing the archetype to new audiences. Even as the clown evolved, its core purpose remained: to entertain, to reflect human nature, and to evoke a complex mix of joy and tension. The modern clown's psychological impact was now well established. The painted face, exaggerated movements, and unpredictable antics could delight or unsettle, depending on the viewer's perception. Children, who had little experience reading social cues, often experienced unease, while adults could appreciate the layers of humor, irony, and subtle critique. The clown became a symbol of duality: joy and fear, comedy and reflection, a living reminder that appearances can be both inviting and ambiguous. In essence, the birth of the circus clown represents the continuation of a long human tradition. From ancient masks to medieval jesters, from sacred rituals to public theater, the clown is a vessel for communication, transformation, and emotional engagement. Its exaggerated smile and painted features are not accidental. They are tools carefully honed over centuries to connect, entertain, and provoke thought. The tension we feel when encountering a clown is a residue of these centuries-old traditions, a subconscious echo of rituals, performances, and archetypes designed to reveal human complexity. As we explore the next stage in this journey, we will see how the clown's role evolved further in modern media, from literature to cinema, and how popular culture intensified both fascination and unease. The painted smile now had the power to entertain, to frighten, and to reflect human emotion in ways that continue to captivate audiences today. As the 20th century unfolded, clowns moved beyond the circus tent and onto a new stage: mass media. Film, television, literature, and later digital platforms brought clowns into the homes and imaginations of millions. This shift transformed the way people perceive clowns, not just as performers, but as symbols capable of evoking both delight and discomfort. Silent films, in particular, amplified the clown's visual power. Without spoken dialogue, actors relied heavily on exaggerated gestures, facial expressions, and physical comedy to communicate emotion. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and other performers borrowed elements of clowning: the careful choreography, the comedic timing, and a mixture of humor with subtle pathos. These portrayals reinforce a clown's ability to convey complex human emotion, showing audiences that laughter could exist alongside tension, sorrow, or fear. At the same time, the narrative power of clowns in literature began to shift. Writers used clowns as characters of contradiction, figures whose playful exterior often concealed deeper truths or darker aspects of human nature. From early 20th century novels to children's literature, the clown became a vessel for storytelling that juxtaposed joy and unease. The tension between what is seen and what is hidden became central to characters' appeal, and for some readers, a source of subconscious discomfort. Cinema played an even more influential role. Horror and suspense films began to explore the uncanny and unsettling qualities of clowns. While the intention was purely artistic, these portrayals tapped into the deep psychological reactions first observed with medieval jesters and circus performers. Exaggerated makeup, unpredictable behavior, and subversion of traditional roles heightened both fascination and fear. The painted face, once a theatrical tool to engage audiences, now also became a visual shorthand for unpredictability, chaos, or hidden menace. Interestingly, psychologists have noted that media exposure can amplify natural unease toward clowns. People who have not directly interacted with clowns may still develop discomfort through repeated exposure to unsettling portrayals in books, movies, and television. The image of the clown as funny but strange became ingrained in the collective consciousness, creating associations that combine humor with tension. Media not only reflected pre-existing psychological responses, it also reinforced and magnified them. Advertising and commercial culture contributed as well. Clowns were often used as mascots of brands, particularly in the food and entertainment industries. Their bright colors, exaggerated expressions, and playful antics drew attention and encouraged positive associations. However, this overexposure, combined with media portrayals of unsettling clowns, sometimes created cognitive dissonance. Audiences were simultaneously drawn to and wary of these figures, enhancing the duality of attraction and unease. Children, again, were particularly sensitive to this duality. Studies in developmental psychology show that young children rely heavily on facial cues to interpret emotions. A clown's painted face, artificially large eyes, red lips, and white background disrupts normal cues and makes emotional interpretation more difficult. When children encounter clowns in media, the exaggerated features can heighten uncertainty and trigger instinctive caution. Even when they intellectually understand a clown is safe, their subconscious reaction is often one of wariness. This dynamic illustrates a broader principle. Clowns function as mirrors of human perception. Through media, they became symbols that communicate both humor and ambiguity. They are simultaneously entertaining, unpredictable, and mysterious, qualities that evoke curiosity, engagement, and sometimes fear. The media amplified these qualities, ensuring that clowns were no longer confined to live performance, but could influence public perception across generations. Another factor to consider is storytelling tension. Writers, filmmakers, and performers understand that mixing joy with discomfort is emotionally engaging. A cheerful figure behaving unexpectedly creates suspense, interest, and reflection. Clowns, by nature, embody this tension. They make audiences laugh while subtly challenging assumptions about safety, trust, and human behavior. In media, this combination proved irresistible. It captured attention, evoked emotion, and created a lasting impact on a collective imagination. Religious and philosophical interpretations occasionally intersected with these media portrayals. Some observers noted that the clown's duality, laughter and ambiguity, joy and subtle unease, echoes deeper human questions about morality, identity, and authenticity. In a way, the clown became more than entertainment. It became a symbolic lens through which audiences could explore human emotion and behavior safely. The exaggerated performance, when viewed in film or literature, provided a reflective space to consider contradictions in human nature, just as ritual masks had done centuries earlier. Even today, the influence of media on clown perception remains strong. Horror films, comic books, and viral internet content often highlight clowns' more unsettling qualities, sometimes for dramatic effect, sometimes to explore psychological tension. Yet mainstream portrayals continue to celebrate humor, nostalgia, and innocence. This ongoing tension between positive and unsettling imagery ensures that clowns remain compelling figures, simultaneously beloved and feared, familiar and strange. Ultimately, media has transformed the clown into a cultural archetype. Its power lies not only in its physical appearance or behavior, but in its ability to evoke complex psychological and emotional responses. From the circus tent to the silver screen, clowns teach us about perception, ambiguity, and the subtleties of human reaction. They remind us that the same figure can make us laugh, provoke reflection, and awaken caution, often at the same time. Understanding this history clarifies an important truth. Our fear or unease around clowns is not a random, irrational reaction. It is a response deeply rooted in psychology, reinforced by centuries of cultural evolution, and amplified by the mass media of the modern age. By seeing how clowns function across media, we begin to understand why a painted smile can elicit such strong and varied responses: joy, curiosity, and subtle, instinctive caution. As we move forward, the next step is to examine the psychological mechanics of the uncanny in more depth. Why human minds respond so powerfully to figures that appear familiar yet distorted, and how clowns occupy a unique position within this realm. This exploration will take us closer to understanding the deeper reasons behind our mixed fascination and discomfort when faced with a clown's painted smile. Human beings are remarkably attuned to faces. From the moment we are born, we rely on facial cues to interpret emotion, intention, and social connection. Every subtle movement, a smile, a frown, a blink, carries meaning. Our brains are hardwired to detect these signals, distinguishing between safety and threat, honesty and deceit. But what happens when a face seems familiar, yet is slightly off? When the expression is exaggerated, artificial, or impossible? This is where the concept of the uncanny comes into play. The term uncanny valley, coined by Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori in 1970, describes the unsettling feeling humans experience when confronted with a figure that looks almost human, but not quite. The closer something appears to human reality without fully achieving it, the more discomfort it can provoke. Slightly exaggerated features, a frozen smile, or a gaze that doesn't align with natural movement can all trigger this response. In essence, the uncanny valley is a collision between familiarity and ambiguity. The human mind recognizes a figure as like us, but senses that something is not entirely right. Clowns occupy a unique position within this uncanny space. Their painted faces are deliberately exaggerated. The eyes are often outlined, the mouth enlarged, the colors unnatural. This design communicates emotion across a distance, ensuring that audiences in a circus tent can read expressions clearly. Yet at the same time, it creates a subtle sense of dissonance. The brain perceives a face that is recognizable, yet distorted. The smile is fixed, the emotion amplified beyond natural limits, and the result is an emotional paradox. The figure is inviting, yet unknowable. Psychologists suggest that this reaction is rooted in evolutionary survival mechanisms. Humans evolved to detect subtle inconsistencies in facial expressions, a skill critical for recognizing deceit, hidden threat, or illness. When something about a face appears incongruent, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes, a frozen expression, or an exaggerated gesture, the brain interprets it as potentially deceptive or threatening. The response is automatic: unease, caution, and heightened attention. The clown's painted smile, although harmless, triggers this instinctual alarm. This response is amplified by emotional ambiguity. Unlike other performers, clowns are intentionally unpredictable. Their movements, sounds, and interactions can shift rapidly from humor to chaos. This unpredictability keeps audiences on edge, subtly heightening the uncanny effect. Even if we intellectually understand that the clown is safe and entertaining, our subconscious struggles to reconcile the contradiction between exaggerated joy and ambiguous intent. The uncanny response is particularly strong in children, whose brains are still developing the ability to interpret social cues. Young children often react to clowns with hesitation or fear because they cannot fully parse the artificial expressions. They rely heavily on natural facial cues to understand emotion, and the distortion created by makeup, oversized features, or exaggerated gestures can be confusing or threatening. Adults, while more cognitively aware, can still feel unease because the brain's recognition systems remain sensitive to subtle inconsistencies in human-like figures. The connection between the uncanny and clowns also reveals something deeper about human emotion and empathy. Our brains use mirror neurons to simulate and understand emotions of others. When we see a genuine smile, our mirror neurons activate, creating a sense of shared joy. But when the smile is artificial, fixed, or exaggerated beyond natural bounds, this empathic response falters. The brain experiences a mismatch. It wants to empathize, but the signal is unreliable. The result is emotional tension, fascination mixed with subtle fear. Historical and cultural influences further intensify the effect. From ancient ritual masks to medieval jesters and circus clowns, humans have been exposed to figures that hide their true identity while displaying exaggerated emotion. These archetypes embed a kind of cultural memory. Even when we encounter a clown in modern contexts, there is subconscious recognition that the figure is both human and symbolic, entertaining and ambiguous. This layered history amplifies the uncanny, reinforcing our simultaneous attraction and discomfort. Moreover, the clown's visual design exploits asymmetry and exaggeration, both of which are known to trigger psychological responses. Large red lips, oversized eyes, and brightly contrasting colors draw attention to features that deviate from natural human proportions. While these exaggerations serve practical purposes, communicating across space, emphasizing humor, they also create cognitive dissonance. The brain notices that the figure is human, yet impossible, familiar, yet alien. That tension is the essence of the uncanny. Even beyond appearance, clowns operate in behavioral ambiguity. Their actions are often unpredictable, playful, and at times disruptive. The brain is constantly trying to predict the next move of a social partner. When a clown defies these expectations, the uncertainty adds to the feeling of unease. The combination of visual exaggeration, fixed expression, and unpredictable behavior creates a multi-layered psychological effect. Fascination intertwined with caution. The uncanny effect is not inherently negative. In fact, it can be emotionally stimulating, heightening engagement and attention. Clowns captivate because they challenge expectations, forcing the brain to process contradictory signals. They provide a safe space to confront the tension between familiarity and ambiguity, joy and fear. This dynamic explains why clowns remain compelling figures across centuries and cultures. They are a mirror of the human mind's ability to navigate complexity. Ultimately, understanding the uncanny helps explain why a painted smile can provoke such strong responses. The discomfort is not arbitrary, nor is it purely learned. It is a deeply rooted, multifaceted reaction, a combination of evolutionary instinct, psychological mechanisms, cultural history, and empathic response. The clown exists in the intersection of these forces, making it a uniquely powerful symbol of human emotion. As we move forward, the next section will examine the symbolic meaning behind clowns, exploring how these figures reflect deeper truths about human nature, emotion, and spirituality. This reflection will show that the fear or unease elicited by clowns is more than instinctual. It is a gateway to understanding ourselves. Clowns are far more than entertainers. Beneath their painted faces, exaggerated gestures, and bright costumes, they embody layers of symbolism that have evolved over centuries. From ancient masks to circus performances, clowns have functioned as mirrors of human nature, reflecting both our joys and our fears. To understand why clowns evoke such mixed emotions, we must explore the deeper meanings embedded in their form and function. At the most basic level, Clowns represent contradiction. They combine opposites: joy and melancholy, innocence and cunning, comedy and chaos. Their exaggerated expressions allow audiences to engage with emotion on a heightened level, yet the artificiality of their appearance introduces uncertainty. This duality captures the essence of human experience: the simultaneous presence of pleasure and discomfort, certainty and doubt. The clown reminds us that life itself is rarely simple or predictable. Historically, clowns have served as social commentators. From medieval jesters to circus performers, their humor often revealed truths that others could not safely express. In doing so, they highlighted the paradoxes of society, the tension between power and vulnerability, between rules and freedom, between appearance and reality. By exaggerating human traits, clowns magnify behavior, allowing audiences to reflect on their own actions and emotions. This symbolic function persists in modern portrayals, where clowns continue to embody both critique and amusement. Psychologically, clowns function as projections of our own inner states. The playful, chaotic, and unpredictable behavior of a clown often mirrors qualities we recognize in ourselves, sometimes admired, sometimes feared. The painted smile, in particular, symbolizes a human tendency to conceal emotion, to perform social roles, and to hide vulnerability behind a mask. When we encounter a clown, we are confronted with a reflection of our own emotional complexity. This can inspire laughter, empathy, or unease, depending on our personal experiences and subconscious associations. Clowns also embody the archetype of the trickster, a figure that appears in countless cultures. The trickster challenges norms, subverts expectations, and forces reflection. In African, Native American, and Norse traditions, tricksters use humor, deception, and contradiction to teach lessons, reveal hidden truths, or provoke insight. The clown inherits this role in the modern context. Playful, chaotic, and often ambiguous, yet capable of conveying profound understanding. Their laughter carries meaning. Their mistakes, exaggerations, and unpredictability serve as subtle mirrors for human behavior. The symbolic power of the clown extends to emotion regulation. Observing a clown allows audiences to confront fear, discomfort, and uncertainty in a controlled environment. Through laughter and engagement, people can safely explore feelings they might otherwise avoid. This reflects a psychological mechanism that has persisted from ancient rituals to medieval jesters to contemporary performances. Humor as a tool for emotional processing. The clown, in this sense, is both entertainment and a form of subtle therapy, guiding viewers to navigate complex emotional landscapes. Another important aspect of clown symbolism is transformation. Just as masks and ancient rituals allowed humans to step into the world of spirits or gods, clowns allow audiences to enter a space where ordinary rules do not fully apply. They transform ordinary moments into experiences of heightened emotion, exaggeration, and reflection. The clown's painted face is a visual signal of this transformation, a cue that what we see is both real and symbolic, literal and metaphorical. This duality explains why clowns can feel simultaneously fascinating and unsettling. Culturally, clowns have been linked to life's paradoxes: joy and sorrow, order and chaos, innocence and subversion. This symbolic complexity makes them timeless figures. They do not merely exist to amuse. They exist to provoke thought, to illuminate contradictions, and to challenge perceptions. The clown becomes a lens through which audiences explore their own values, fears, and emotional responses. Finally, clowns reflect a human need for narrative and meaning. Across history, humans have used storytelling, theater, and performance to make sense of the world. Clowns, in all their forms, are part of this tradition. They condense complex ideas into visual, emotional, and behavioral cues that can be understood intuitively. The exaggerated smile, the deliberate chaos, the unpredictable actions, all communicate ideas about humanity, morality, and emotion in ways words alone cannot. In essence, clowns are symbols of humanity itself. Playful yet serious, familiar yet strange, entertaining yet reflective. They remind us that beneath every smile may lie complexity, beneath every laugh may lie tension, and beneath every performance may lie truth. By understanding the symbolism embedded in clowning, we gain insight not only into the history of performance, but also into the psychological and emotional mechanisms that make clowns enduring figures in human culture. This symbolic exploration sets the stage for the final reflection: how clowns, through history, ritual, performance, and media, continue to affect us emotionally and psychologically, and why that response, both fascination and unease, is a fundamental part of human nature. From ancient rituals to modern media, the clown has traveled a long and complex journey. What began as sacred masks and ceremonies, designed to connect humans to the divine, evolved through medieval jesters, circus performers, and theatrical figures, eventually becoming the familiar painted face we recognize today. Throughout this journey, one element has remained consistent: the clown's ability to evoke strong, layered emotions. Clowns occupy a unique psychological space. They are familiar yet strange, joyful yet ambiguous, entertaining yet unsettling. This duality taps into deep-seated mechanisms in the human brain: the uncanny, emotional ambiguity, and the instinct to interpret faces. When we encounter a clown, we respond not only to its actions and appearance, but also to centuries of cultural memory embedded in our collective consciousness. We feel fascination because clowns mirror aspects of ourselves, our emotions, contradictions, and vulnerabilities, and we feel unease because their exaggerated, artificial forms disrupt normal social cues. Symbolically, clowns represent much more than comedy. They are mirrors, tricksters, commentators, and guides. Through humor and chaos, they reflect human nature, highlighting joy, fear, absurdity, and wisdom. Their exaggerated faces and unpredictable behavior create a space for reflection, allowing audiences to safely confront uncomfortable truths about identity, emotion, and society. Clowns teach us that laughter is not always simple, that amusement often carries subtle lessons, and that appearances can be deceptive. Media has amplified these effects, bringing clowns into literature, film, television, and digital platforms. By portraying clowns in various contexts, from wholesome performers to ambiguous or eerie figures, media has reinforced the emotional tension they naturally evoke. This has created a widespread cultural association. Clowns are both entertaining and potentially unsettling, playful yet unpredictable. The mix of fascination and discomfort is not accidental. It is a reflection of their historical and psychological legacy. Ultimately, the clown's enduring presence speaks to a fundamental aspect of human nature. We are drawn to figures that challenge, amuse, and provoke thought. Clowns embody this tension perfectly. They remind us of the thin line between reality and performance, familiarity and strangeness, joy and fear. Their painted smiles are not just entertainment. They are symbols of the complexity of human emotion, tools for reflection, and invitations to explore the paradoxes within ourselves. Understanding clowns in this historical, psychological, and symbolic context allows us to see them in a new light. The next time we encounter a painted smile, we can recognize not only the laughter it provokes, but also the centuries of human experience it carries. Ritual, performance, wisdom, and reflection. The fear or unease we may feel is not merely irrational. It is a natural responsive figure that has always challenged humans to see beyond the surface. In the end, clowns are more than entertainers. They are mirrors of humanity, reminders of our complexity, and catalysts for reflection. They invite us to laugh, to wonder, and at times, to pause and confront the unknown. And that is why, even today, a simple painted smile can evoke both fascination and fear, connecting us to a long history of human creativity, emotion, and symbolic expression. The story of the clown is, in many ways, a story of ourselves, our humor, our instincts, our history, and our capacity for reflection. By exploring this journey, we gain not only insight into a cultural phenomenon, but also a deeper understanding of the human mind, emotion, and imagination.